And we're live. Hello, and welcome. Hold on just a sec.
Hello.
Oh, it's always something, isn't it? It sure is. I've got people in the backstage waiting, and they are already laughing at me. It's going to be a great show, y'all. I'm so glad you're here. So, first up, we have, as always, my amazing and lovely and genius brother, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Howdy, Glory.
And we also have as a special guest and local author. She literally lives down the road and around the corner from us, Camille. Yay! We went so far to get her.
I could literally just come over and film with you.
You could literally do that, in a non-pandemic, and also, but kind of like Tom is literally in his room in the same apartment.
Wait, are y'all in the same apartment?
Yeah,
we are housemates.
Yeah, we could set you up on the couch.
Right. We'll put you on the couch, give you like your own little desk and everything, and you can be like,
yes, do it.
Well, it's easier to give out the banana daiquiris that way. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like we're all having the same drink.
That's funny how that works out. Yeah. Yeah, you can sit on the couch in front of Tom's flex wall. It's an entire wall that I had created for when Tom does job interviews, and it all has his photography framed up and everything, and the cigar box guitars that we've made. And I call it the flex wall. It's true. Well, anyway, would anyone like to introduce themselves?
Well, I'm Tom. I'm usually the one making drinks, obviously. We are probably going to all sound really Southern today because we're going to be thinking about, Southern stories, and we got three, South Mississippians talking, so our voices are going to go a bit twangy.
We're going to get real twangy, y'all. I mean, if you need to, when Tom does the best of highlight reel, it will be subtitled.
Yeah. Yeah, probably we'll have to go in and edit.
Yes.
So this is not putting on a show or anything. This is really our accents. It's just we're used to, pretending to have a more general English accent when we're talking with anyone else in the rest of the world. But, you stop thinking about it, you start talking with friends, next thing you know.
True. It happens.
Camille, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Camille Myrick. I'm an author tuber. I'm also the author of a poetry collection called Paper Daisies, which is kind of like a chronicle of how I was a Southern city girl, and then I moved out into the rustic countryside and kind of fell in love with the more heartland side of the South. I'm currently writing an adult thriller that has Southern Gothic and folk noir kind of elements, so I'm really, really excited for this discussion.
Excellent. And let's see, as soon as I learn how to spell paper right, there is a link to Camille's book of poetry, Paper Daisies, in the chat if anyone is interested in checking that out. Also, just so y'all know, oh yeah, the y'all is real strong today. All the links for everybody is down below. I did a little bit of Google Foo, and I found Camille's Facebook author page, her Instagram, her Twitter, her Goodreads link for Paper Daisies, in case you want to let everybody know, I want to read that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. As well as, her Patreon. I found that eventually, too.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. Look, I am once a librarian, always a librarian. Once a teacher, always a teacher. I was both. So I know how to Google Foo, everybody. But all of those links are down below. By the way, also, while I'm plugging Camille's book, let me just go ahead and plug Tom's book. He does have a book about computer repair that, if you have Kindle Unlimited, is free. It is totally 1,000% free, or at least it's included, however you want to look at that economics. It is available. And if for whatever reason you are financially not in a place to purchase it or have Kindle Unlimited, I'm sure you could just slide into Tom's DMs and he'd be happy to help you out with a copy, because He wrote that several years ago. If you do read it, though, please consider giving him a book review, as well as Camille. If you read hers, go on and show her some love and give a book review. All the reviews help. So, anyway, I see that we've got people in the chat already. Let's go ahead and do the hellos. Everett's here. Hello, Everett. Everett, as y'all remember, was on the show a few weeks ago. He is what's I guess called a new music composer, which just means it's like modern classical music. Let's say that. Sounds good. Kat is here. Hi, Kat. How are you? We need to get Kat on sometime. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Tom is here in his other account because Tom delivers, y'all. If you're in the Hattiesburg area, Tom delivers food. Or anything else, actually, for that matter. I have sent him out to Target to get me stuff. There, I said it. Oh, yes. Sometimes I have a need for folders. So it's like Tom
Right.
from Target folders. Well, anyway, so that's, I think, in the intros. And, of course, y'all know me. I'm Glory. I write the blues. I also am a professional photographer. I'm working on that website to actually share that with y'all. And I write LGBTQIA plus romance. I write all sorts of fiction because I can, and no one can stop me. And when I'm not doing all of those things, I also cook. And I wrote one cookbook with my mother when I was a teenager, and I am working on another one with Tom. So there are recipes from time to time.
Ooh, I got a dressing recipe you need.
Now, are we talking like cornbread dressing, or are we talking about salad dressing?
Cornbread dressing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have been on how long has this quest been going on for the ultimate cornbread dressing? Like at least 10 years, like maybe 12, 15 years.
That was mine.
12, 15.
It's mine.
Yeah, I have been on a quest. Now, we have come up with the ultimate pimento cheese. And I've had people who hate pimento cheese tell me how much they love our pimento cheese. And that took about 3-4 years of research and testing, delicious testing, to come up with.
We just don't use pimento anymore. We just set cheese spread. And then they love.
Yeah, we say like rockin' cheese spread because it's a little bit spicy, but it doesn't have to be. We can do, mild. And then we also have a vegetarian, not vegan, a vegetarian version as well.
Oh, yum.
So anyhow, I see that Sid has joined us. Hey, sweetie. It is such a delight to see you. How are you doing are you doing part of the melanated 10K day, the last day of Nano? Got to catch those words before they disappear, right?
Yeah, I saw that post of, I can't remember now who's on Instagram saying, killing us with these 30-minute sprints. That's all Sid was going. It's like, no, we need another 30-minute. Gonna get that writing in.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? Did you do Nano this year, Camille?
I was going to Nano, and then I ran into some huge roadblocks. So then I was like, I'm not going to write another word until December because just the pressure of Nano was just too much. So I was like, I took the month off. But I did get to 60,000 words in my novel over the course of the month. So I did get some work done. But I didn't do a transition on Nano.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Or what was it called? Nano Rebel? I mean, that
Nano
does seem
Rebel.
appropriate for a Southerner.
Yeah.
And then CB is here. Hello, darling. How goes the writing? How goes it? How is Tony Stark and Pepperoni?
Always prolific.
Pepper and Tony is pepperoni. So, so I was thinking, Camille, do you have do you have a book that you are on track for to be released, like, for instance, next year or the year after or something?
Well, I was thinking
if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
No, it's fine. I was debating doing a follow-up poetry collection about motherhood, which I have almost done, but I'm not sure if I'm going to release it. I'm planning on querying around March and April, and querying agents and seeing like what happens with Project Run in the query trenches, and then after that, I'll kind of decide where to go. So after the first quarter of the year, I'll have a more realized plan, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I know. Everything right now in the South, we just got to get through Christmas.
Yeah, it's just Christmas right now. It's just Christmas and Cyber Monday.
Yes, I was like, oh, today is the last day of Nano. Frankly, I was like, ain't nobody coming to this.
No.
This is the last day
Yeah, I
of Nano.
know.
It's really out. Everybody's out catching the words, versus we are a delightful break.
Yeah, just a break.
Just a break, Although, like most writers, we never really fully stop working on our craft, do we?
No.
So
I'm always brainstorming. I never stop thinking about my novel. And so it's like, even when I'm burnt out, it's hard to get like a reprieve from burnout when you're constantly thinking about it, because it's like you still feel like you're working and brainstorming. Like I was sitting out on the porch this afternoon and was like, okay, I've got to start thinking about next steps. And then it was like, bing, oh, this is what needs to come next in your chapter. And I'm like, oh, excellent. I can actually like write on that. So if we did like writing sprints during the stream, I'm like, oh, I got me a little idea, which seems to have flitted out of my brain all of a sudden now that I've said it. Wait, what was it? Dang it. Oh, I got it. It's back.
Make a note.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You got to write it down. You got to write something down that makes sense.
Excuse me. Let me get my Christmas tree pen. Just jot that one down.
Go ahead. Yeah, right now and get it out of your system so that it's there. Because you know what? It matters. It really does.
I need it.
All right. So, we are going to do some sprints. We're going to, let's see. I'm picking one of Camille's 15-minute timers. I got that one set up. Okay. And I figured that we would do our first sprint at 30 minutes or approximately. And then we'll do a 15-minute sprint at that point. Give everybody time to find your pens, pencils, notebooks, water, snacks. Just throwing things out there. Bathroom break. I don't know. Whatever you need to do, because I find writers are notorious for forgetting that the body has needs.
Right.
One of the other book ideas Glory keeps getting on to me to write is care and feeding of your writer.
Right.
How to keep your writer productive and alive.
Yes.
Because they are pets.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like I am, in fact, Tom's pet, because he'll come in and he's like, "Hey, so what have you eaten today?" And I'm like, and it's 4 p.m. and I'm like,
what?
Coffee count? Coffee. I had coffee and tea.
I want a pimento cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
That.
Well, maybe for Christmas we'll drop off a jar at your house so that at least you can get some.
Oh my God.
Has gotten like what is it, like 5-6 pounds of cheddar in the fridge from making pimento cheese, and we,
only like 4
and we have
pounds.
all these.
Oh, I need really, honestly. I'll make you some.
Like
I'll
little spice, right?
I'll do you a dish in return. We'll do a dish swap.
The southern way.
Pressure to. Like you got a baby, you got writing.
No, honey. No, it's fine.
But yeah, like we know people who, when we give them the pimento cheese, like remember that one friend, we'd have to hide it in other containers, otherwise her kids would do all within 12 hours.
Oh my.
And she's like, so she had us put it in like some whey container, for smoothies or health shakes. And we put it in that to hide it. And she's like, oh, that's mom's medicine for when she's, blocked up.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh. Meanwhile, she's hiding it from her teenagers, like a big old quart of pimento cheese in there.
Yeah, and Glory, it wasn't 12 hours. It was about 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
Like,
it was
she
real
was like, where did it go? I just came home.
Right, and it was gone within an hour. The whole jar. Like
It's so good though.
Yeah, we gave her at least a pint, and it was gone within an hour of her getting home, and she didn't get a single taste. Like, she'd already tasted before at work, but she didn't get a single taste at home, and she was like,
That's some damn good pimento cheese.
Well, we've been working on that recipe for years because we grew up, like, as teenagers, we lived in North Mississippi. And, pimento cheese up there, Miss Lella used to make pimento cheese for every occasion with her, thin sliced bread, with the crust cut off. And it would be an enormous platter of them. And so we grew up totally spoiled. But, yeah, Miss Lella has passed on.
I might have to go give him something to eat. Give me a snack.
Yeah, that is the thing, right? About Southerners, we get together, we go talk about food.
Mm-hmm.
That is the uniting force.
Yeah, it is.
So we were going to talk today about telling stories set in the South. Some writers get it right, but I'm going to be honest, a lot of writers don't necessarily. A lot of movies get it wrong. They glorify the really problematic bits, like, the 10 years before the Civil War, not a time that you should be glorifying, like, oh, isn't it so lovely? I wish I could go back. No. I mean, I have reminded women who fantasize about walking around in hoop skirts of, like, you do know women couldn't own property, right?
Right.
Fun fact, in Mississippi, women did not, by state constitution, get the right to vote until the 1980s. The 1980s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were voting under the Federal Act.
Yeah.
That's not surprising to me at all, though.
But just remember, what was it? Not Musgrove. Who is it that you do not talk bad about?
Mulpus. Do not talk bad about Mulpus. Because his secretary threw herself under a bus to save him so they didn't ratify the abolition of slavery, the 15th Amendment, right? That was the one. I'm terrible about numbers. But Mississippi didn't until it was supposed to be ratified in like 91, 92. Well, apparently technically the paperwork never was mailed in from Mulpus's office. Or at least the department that was supposed to receive it said they never received it. And so the Daily Show, like in the early to mid 2000s, made a whole big deal about how Mulpus, I mean, they made, like with all those Southern stereotypes about,
because and they later admitted, well, with the name Dick Mulpus, we couldn't help ourselves.
And also it was the one day their fact checker had taken sick leave in like decades. The one day in this man's career, he took sick leave. And
literally the one day.
The one day. And so he wasn't there to fact check of like, no, Dick Mulpus has always been, for the civil rights movement, for women's liberation and women's autonomy. He's always been for all these things. So of all the governors to complain about, you complain about the one governor. Like, no, you're not complaining about Ross Barnett. No. The one governor who actually was forward thinking and was, a compassionate person. And they just reamed him. Well, they did an entire retraction on that. The Daily Show did.
Like 10 minutes.
Because his secretary went on national news saying, no, it's my fault. He gave me the paperwork. This is the last 3 days of his administration, and his secretary, a Black woman, I can't remember her name because I'm terrible with names, but she went on national news saying it's my fault. She was like, oh no, I'm throwing myself under the bus. Nobody throws Dick Mulpus under the bus on this one. And I was like, you have to be a really good person for your staff to be like, it is my fault. It is not Dick Mulpus's fault.
Yeah.
As I understand, Dick Mulpus is still out there and his family is still out there trying to help with Mississippi's Forestry Service. And I think that they may or may not be funding Rethink Mississippi. That's Dick Mulpus money. So, just saying. I had a conversation several years ago. So they are still out there doing the good works. But anyhow, I thought we, real quick, let's see, there's been some chat. Hey, Sid, there's a CB says, I'm going to be planning next month. That's excellent. Kat says planning to play some Sims. All right. I hope you have a good time. Are you going to do the Twitch, or are you going to just play Sims while you listen to us? Either one is awesome. Just let us know if you're doing Twitch. So let me know so you can post the link to share with everybody.
Yeah, don't forget you got a wrench there, Kat.
It's like, does she? Because that's what I was like, did I? I can
Yeah.
never remember. Okay, yeah, Kat's got a wrench. Go ahead and put the link in if you're going to go on Twitch, sweetie. And then, let's see, CB says I'm experimenting with different way of doing the watching movies thing. Cool. Very cool. Are you talking about like how you're putting up on the TV or how you watch movies themselves?
Are you doing a group thing like, what was it with Prime? So...
We are looking at doing a watch party on Twitch or Cast soon. We are looking at the mechanics of doing it so people can watch movies with us and we can all talk about the movies when we do that. We've been doing some research on that. We're hoping to have something to say pretty soon about that. Everett says the complete guide to caring for your writer. Yep. Kat says I'm going to end up talking with your accent after watching this. Yes, I do that too. I start talking in the accents of other people around me. Kat says my dad does the same thing. We didn't know till my stepmom commented when we visited my grandmother one time. Yes. She says I'm playing and listening. I'm playing the stream after you guys end. Oh, cool. All right. Well, we are glad to keep you company.
So why don't we talk about some of these movies real quick to kind of give people a quick rundown.
How do you want to do it, Tom?
I don't know.
Can you tell Camille's like, I'm just here for the ride?
Yeah.
want me to just do a weird rundown arrangement as I have come across this last week?
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
So let's see. Things I have learned. If you put the word Mississippi in the title of your movie, it is about corruption. And it is about pride. And it is about a lot of sins of a lot of people. That is the only reason to put the word Mississippi in your movie name. I did go through finding a whole lot of movies just because, like, what's Mississippi? And so that's how we ended up watching, like, Mississippi Damned. And Mississippi Masala.
Well, no, I mean, like, I already knew about Mississippi Masala.
Yeah, maybe Masala. We were very familiar from the 90s.
That when I was in middle school, and my parents wouldn't let me because, like, I had a serious crush on Denzel Washington, which I'm happy to say, like, having now rewatched or watched Mississippi Masala, I approve of middle school glories, impressedness with Denzel Washington. He's hot. But my parents wouldn't let me watch it because it had too much sex. It's the only good cinematography in this film, and it is awesome. All the sexy scenes. There's so many satin sheets. It's amazing. But everyone else's friends, like their parents let them watch all sorts of sexy movies. But I still couldn't watch it in middle school because miscegenation. I mean, like, Camille, I know you're younger than us by more than a few years. So I don't know if you grew up hearing this, but we grew up in the 80s hearing constantly miscegenation. Like, we literally had a hard time watching as a kid, watching The Fox and the Hound because miscegenation. And
define.
Yes.
Define. What does that mean?
Miscegenation is about, essentially, in short, the mixing of races. That's it.
Yeah. Yes. You know, the thing Mississippi's really good at?
Yes. Like, people thought if you watch a movie about it, it might encourage children to, like, date other race, people of all sorts of colors.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, I don't think people need an enticement in Mississippi.
I mean, Camille, you can attest to this one. How many white grandmas do you see in stores walking their obviously very mixed grandchildren in South Mississippi?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yes.
And they are all some diehard bigots, but the second that, and this is the difference between Mississippi and Alabama as well. I mean, at Alabama, they kick them out of the family. But here,
I say that as having former Alabama in-laws, and I do not miss any of them.
But for some reason, Mississippi, the second there is a baby, it doesn't matter, how mixed that baby is. Grandma and grandpa are like, oh no, that's mine.
That's
Mhm.
mine. That is mine.
That is my baby.
Yes. No, I know that. That it's just like there is a theme of your blood and your roots that is just so thick in the South, where it's like there's the demarcation is like it's our kind, but it's our blood, it's our kin, because that's like the tribe that we know it will defend us. And what I've seen, like, it wasn't this so much like this when I was living in like the heart of Hattiesburg, but when I came out to the rural areas, it's like joining a family, even by marriage, is a trial by fire. Like, you really have to suffer your way into the family, and no one is going to enter easily. No one is. You have to prove yourself and almost like serve the family in a way that's like that proves your loyalty. And I think there's like just this deep mistrust of outsiders that like it's very visual with race, like the racial issues in the South, those are very visual, but there's also regional outsiders, like if you're from the city or if you're from the country or if you're from that rural town versus this rural town, or if your kid plays for that high school football team or this high school football team. It's all very much identity, ownership, who do you belong to, who defends you, where it precedes your reputation. And that's what's so fascinating about Southern culture to me, is just how we've kind of been left to fend for ourselves in a lot of ways. Like, our education system has abandoned us. Our government systems have definitely fucking abandoned us. And so it's like you have a bunch of people, like, we have no resources and we have no education. And so we go to our primal instinct and just kind of survive in what feels right. And what feels right is what feels familiar. And I think that's the root problem of a lot of the problematic stuff in the South, is that we lack the resources to develop any better coping. I mean, we still don't even normalize psychological therapy. We still don't normalize getting medical care, because medical care indicates your lack of faith in God, or it indicates that something's wrong with you, and you get stigmatized, and it's there's a weak link in the chain, so the whole chain is threatened. Like, it's the backwards mindset if you go to the root of like where it came from and how people get there, and then you can walk yourself out of it. But you have to understand how you get there first, because you can't talk someone down like a presidential debate. You can't sit across and present the facts, because it's just so ingrained in
that is not how you convince anyone around here. Is not with facts. No,
it's not with facts. You have to make that emotional appeal. You have to draw, like with the Black Lives Matter thing that happened earlier this year. Like, there was a whole conversation, especially Mississippi, about if we wanted to move forward or if we wanted to stay with our traditions or whatever. And the greatest and most effective conversations that I saw going on rooted the issue back in what people considered supreme, which was scripture. And so people were bringing up the 99 sheep and the one lost sheep argument. And they're like, look at it this way, like frame it in their frame and they'll see it. But frame it from your perspective. Like, you can't just tell your story because, well, you're an outsider. So, like, I can't, there's no way to empathize. But if you put it through the frame of what they understand, what we understand, that's how you make almost like a conversion or like a breaking out in that mentality. And that's how I did. I mean, for sure, it's just seeing it from a different perspective. So a lot of stuff that I write with the Southern Gothic kind of addresses how do you reach the Southern person who's so deeply rooted? Like, how do you get to them right? You have to talk to them in their language, but what's their language? Well, it's blood and kinship and God and your reputation. Like, so you have to like understand this region is very Wild West, and that's my spiel on that. But I'm sorry.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah. I mean, Gloria always keeps
I got
reminding me.
opinions. I got a lot of them.
Well,
Yeah,
Gloria,
because you are a Southern woman. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it reminds me of, Gloria constantly reminds me of how do you reach anyone? Well, nobody cares what you know till they know that you care.
Yep.
And that is about you have to speak to them in their own language.
Yeah.
Before they're going to care what you know.
Right.
Yep. Nobody cares what you know till they know that you care. Yeah. Well, just real quick, Eva has come by. Hello, darling. It is so lovely to see you. And she is so happy to see Camille on one of her favorite streams. Oh, sweetie, a backhand compliment. Or I guess would it be a front hand compliment? Hold up, let me I'm mixing my.
Is it just a compliment, Glory? Is it possible?
It's sort of like she's like trying to compliment Camille, but like also like, oh, but on my favorite stream, yeah. Like instead of how like a backhand insult,
I believe that's called a double compliment.
Okay, a double compliment. Yeah, that sounds better.
I know it's a rare thing.
With the wording.
I know we're in the South. We're not used to that.
Yeah. And then let's see. Yes, Eva is here for the opinions, and so are we. Yes, speak your mind. Speak your mind. It was a standard hand compliment. Super. Let me go back. Let's see. From earlier conversation, CB says the story I'm writing is one of those where the MCU characters watch the movies. Only instead of having everyone there, I'm just going to do Tony, Pepper, Natasha, Morgan, and Rhodey. Which one is Morgan?
Is that the daughter?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. Because I was like, why don't I recognize? I should recognize them. Mostly because we are planning all sorts of Marvel Cinematic Universe goodness next year. Y'all gonna be so excited. I think so anyway. CB says I was raised Catholic and I was stigmatized for having a disability and being an only child and having divorced parents. That is a rough combo, period, for anybody, let alone I know that there is this odd thing among, well, I don't even want to just say Catholics or just Christians or anyone, because it's like around the world of like, oh,
conservative. Just go with conservative religions.
Well, I was just going to say like any group of like, if you have a disability, that means there's something wrong with you on the inside or something spiritually not right, because like shouldn't you be healed from, like, it's this real complicated ableism thinking that's really detrimental to everyone, both able-bodied people and disabled people,
right?
And it is so destructive no matter where it's happening. And so I can only imagine how, because like with me and Tom, our disabilities have always been invisible. With the autism, we learned to mask at a very early age. A lot of people, not just inside our family, but outside our family, definitely helped us coaching to mask better, to appear normal, or appear socially acceptable. And with the Ehlers-Danlos, also, it's an invisible disability. Until you have an injury, nobody knows anything's wrong. And then they just think, oh, you just had a rough fall, versus, oh no, you made a rubber band. So, and with like a variety of our health issues, they're all invisible. We're very blessed in that way that we can pass long enough to get a job.
Well, although growing up, remember, I was such a severe stutterer.
Well, that's true. So
you were my interpreter.
No other human being apparently could understand Tom until you were about 7 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, not even his speech pathologist could understand him. So they would have to schedule his speech therapy meetings, his appointments for, like, after school, because I'm 3 years older than Tom, so that I could be there as his interpreter, because even his speech therapist could not understand him. So I'd have to be there to say what he said to them. They had no idea. Because his stutter was so severe, I'm told. I did not find his stutter severe. He made perfect sense to me, but apparently not even our parents could understand him. No other human being could understand him. until he was 7 years old, and his stutter and the therapy he received kind of worked together, like his brain development, along with all the therapy he had received since he was 3, kind of all coalesced, and people started being able to understand him. Plus, I think that you learned to read before me, because I didn't learn to read till I was 9, and I want to say you learned to read about 7, so you also started being able to write out your responses.
But I mean, I just remember the part of, and we've seen with, as well as, I can't remember her name you grew up with, that when you stutter, when you have any kind of speech problems, suddenly people think that it equals your intelligence. And that's probably why I got a lot of bonuses on my review for my intelligence when I was a small child, is I stuttered, and then all of a sudden I could give these very long, well thought out responses, and it just made it more extreme, my seeming intelligence, versus, no, these are the thoughts I always have, I just don't always have an easy time getting that out. But I mean, who was it? Brandy. Remember because she couldn't really speak?
Brandy was a childhood friend of ours. I was like, is he talking about the singer? Anyway, Brandy was a childhood friend of ours who had, I believe she had cerebral palsy. She actually had several disabilities. But she had 2 older sisters who, at our church camp that we would have every summer, they would just dump her on me. And because Randy was a little older than me, but we both had autism. So our mothers thought, shouldn't they be fast friends? Okay. Anyway, but we got along enough, is that what you were talking about? Like with Brandy having difficulty communicating, but it did not have anything to do with her brain function. She just had
like she had real problems actually speaking at all.
Yeah.
So Gloria again was her interpreter. She had so much experience with me. And so Glory would just, finally vocalize all the shade Brandy had built up from frustration with her sisters.
She was so sassy. She was my first teacher of sass. And she could just take someone to the library so fast. And I was truly just absolutely clueless. But I would say what she wanted me to say to people at the right moments to really give them a 1-2 punch.
Eva, we don't get snow. Ever.
Let's see. Okay, so back to Eva said I was raised attending church Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Oh yeah. And my mother told me that God doesn't care if we dress up or if we're sad. Church isn't the only place he exists. And if a church isn't welcoming, it isn't God's house. My mother was raised Catholic. I wasn't. Yep. Let's see. She's got more conservative age. Oh, that's unfortunate. StreamYard has just jumped. Well, at least you got that. Around here. Stevie says, I remember explaining to my little cousins, we're 4 and 3, that we were going to God's house and we had to be like little mice the entire time. We were on vacation in Ireland at the time. Little mice. Is that
don't be seen or heard. Be unnoticeable.
Okay. It's a given, and boy, did that clown lower my estimation of Linda McMahon.
McMahon.
Let's see. Eva says, my 5th grade teacher let me know that the correct and only right way to sound as an American was like news anchors. Midwest. Yes, that Midwestern.
Although here's a little secret. The rest of the world loves the Mississippi Southern accent.
Oh, yes.
The rest of the world will be your friend if you sound like us.
Mm-hmm. They love it. They think it's so
New York, cute. LA,
Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong, everywhere.
Australia, yep.
They'll forgive you a lot with this accent.
Mm-hmm. Eva, I'm sure if you hung out with us, you would come back. Camille, your space looks so cozy. Ready for Christmas? Oh yeah. Do you have snow? We don't get. We did get snow a couple years ago, Camille. Remember, we got that ice storm and the snow.
That was lucky.
It was crazy. Okay, so where we live, and I'm not exaggerating, this is the incline of the road that goes past our house. Okay, it is like about 30 to 40 degree. I mean, it is insane. And we just kept watching dogs and cats sliding down the iced road all day. I mean,
Looking confused.
they were just like, what is happening to me? As they're just moving. So, yes, take someone to the library. Absolutely. Libertarian sib, a political mother, and the rest are Trumpers who didn't care until they had him to fantasize. Yeah, we can understand.
Yeah.
8 sibs and 3 parents.
Jeez.
I'm so glad we're from a small family. I mean, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't mean to be rude, but it's like, yeah, I don't miss my Alabama in-laws. I don't miss having to go troop to all these family events, and they're just so boring, and these people are so boring. I just CCB said basically we had to be seen and not hurt. Yeah. Eva says there was a children's church at the church we attended, so we weren't in the adult church often, had to be quiet there. I always sang too loud. I can relate. I've been kicked out of 6 different children's choirs. Biggest shift with my church attendance came with the state move to Illinois. Jobs do not cater to keeping church hours off work. Single mother did what she did. Church stopped in grade 5. Understandable. So, how about we do a sprint? We all go get our pens, our paper, our water, or other beverages, snack. Maybe it's time for a bathroom break. I'm just throwing that out there. Since we sometimes forget. I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in the middle of writing going,
As I messaged Sid earlier today, it's 2020. It's never too early for a hard cider.
okay, yes, it's 2020. Let's just, whatever you're in the mood for. So, let's see. Clicking buttons. It's all great. Oh, look, it's a timer by Camille.
I have Christmas ones out tomorrow.
I'm about to say, like, oh, you have no. Okay. Well, poop. So, are we all ready? We're going to do a sprint, and we will see you back here in 15-ish minutes.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1, sprint! Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Hello and welcome back. Let me move my keyboard out. I actually did write, so, to Tom. Okay. How did everybody do? Did you achieve a sandwich?
Mm.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Tom came over and we were talking about what we were going to talk about next. Hence, if you saw me, I seemed quite animated because I was talking to Tom. First, we actually had to talk about, okay, where does Camille actually live? I was like, okay, where is it? So we were talking about that in relation to where we are. And then we were talking about, we really do need to make some pimento cheese so we could drop off. And that way we can have a very massive, socially distanced high in real life. And then
that would be really crazy.
So I can get,
because I've never met another author tuber in real life.
I know, isn't it so cool? Also, it's just so nice to be able to give something we made to someone else. Like, I love
I would die
for
for
other
some
people. Like,
pimento cheese.
And I mean, like, I love our pimento cheese, and I'm not saying that just because I made it, or we invented the recipe. Just more like, it is everything I love about cheese spread, and none of the things I have never been thrilled about. Because I've had some questionable pimento cheese.
Yeah, say like ours is a whipped cheese spread versus never been big on that shredded large chunk cheese with bits of pimento in it and mayo.
Right.
Floating around in mayonnaise. Like, and why is the mayonnaise so acidic? It's creepy. Why? Why is it so acidic? It's like it'll burn your tongue if you eat too much at once.
Mm-hmm.
Too much is about 3 tablespoons. Anyway. So yeah, ours is a whip spread and it is delicious and it spreads on everything. And in fact, it does go great if you want to make Miss Lella's pimento cheese sandwiches with the super thin Pepperidge Farm bread. Anyway, that's a Southern.
Although we did just recently come up with a milk and butter bread that is perfect for it.
Holy cow, is this bread? We make it in the bread machine, and it is amazeballs. Y'all, like, it has changed my week. I have probably gained 5 pounds from eating so much bread for Thanksgiving, and I don't care. But anyway.
It's like mixing a good sandwich bread with croissants.
No, seriously, and it toasts up so crispy and crunchy. Oh, good Lord, it toasts beautifully. It's amazing.
That sounds great.
I mean, yes, it's been a delightful surprise. So Camille achieved pancakes and eggs. Yes. Oh, that sounds like with some syrup on it. Did you use like pancake maple syrup or something?
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Tom, how did you do?
I finally remembered to get you some tea and ice.
Oh, well, there's that. Hey, yeah. There's tea and ice.
That I forgot before the show.
Yeah, we put on makeup and Tom was like, what you need? I'm like, tea and ice would be great, for my iced tea. Because this is my iced tea from yesterday. I'm still nursing. It's not iced anymore, but,
Right.
I'll drink it anyway. I have no standards. Okay, let's see. Where was everybody? Oh, wow. There's a lot of talking. Oh, and also I did write, what was it? 114 words. So, hey. It is the first date scene in the romance that I'm writing.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that's why I've been putting it off for like 2 weeks. It was like it was the early 2000s the last time I was on a good date. I have dated since then. None of them have been good. They have all been genuinely terrible.
Oh, do I know someone?
It's okay. That's not necessary. I'm not going to date anyone for a while. Like, no, I have scavenged all of South Mississippi, and I'm like, yep, nope. So
I might find you a Stewart.
Oh, but I love wearing pants, and I'm not married. Anyway, no shade to actual Stewarts. Anyway, well, that's something else. Okay, but anyhow, let's see something. Oh, Eva's talking about the moon. Good Lord, what have been going on here? Children's church. Okay. Jeannie Noble came. Hello, darling. Finally made. Oh, thank you so much for coming. We're so happy to see you. Came in one of the sprints. Did you get anything written? Or, did you achieve food, water, things? Let's see. Let's see. So much. Everybody's talking about. Okay, I think CB says 351 words. Eva just got 230 words and a Mr. Goodbar. Oh, very nice, very nice. CB's got her 351. No, 354. Okay, the words are growing. That's excellent, though. Is that part of your outline? Did I miss? I don't. Oh, we talking about Pentecostals now.
Well, remember, I mentioned that story.
Oh, and I think, is this from the latest thing CB's written? I used to be arrogant once upon a time. And then I got kidnapped and built a miniaturized arc reactor in a cave in Afghanistan. I escaped, but every now and then, hold up, I am still haunted by the memory of the cardiologist who saved me. Haunted by them, huh? I mean, that's Tony Stark for you. I'm way not into writing, though, so I'm done now. I'm just going to listen to music on sprints. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that. But I mean, I am pansexual, so you would think, like, oh, glory, surely there are so many people available. And the answer is not if you have standards down here. So, and I'm just so good at picking the ones that have questionable boundaries. See, top 3... Nope, not. Let's see. Jeannie says, I finished a chapter just before I jumped in here. Moving on to the next chapter to revise. Right? Excellent.
Nice.
Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Jeannie or Jenny or something I have not considered yet? Please let us know. So, we were talking about what to talk about before we go any further. So, we did have, of the movies we did find, and I just want to say there is a movie we had a hard time finding. We watched it several years ago. I cannot find the title because it's an independent movie. It's a little indie kind of, I guess it's a romance. It was actually filmed, I think, it was filmed in like East Mississippi, West Alabama, but I think it's technically supposed to take place somewhere in the Carolinas. I just don't quite remember. Maybe Georgia. I don't know. But I mean, I recognized it when I saw it. And it's about two best friends. They are of different races. They're two women. And I can't remember. One of them opens up a hair salon downtown. And then I don't remember where the romance guy comes in. But I cannot remember the title because it was a very unmemorable title. Now, the library system had it. That's actually how I watched it because I used to work there. And it was really cute, but like it didn't have any I don't think it had any notable actors. But let's say there is one romantic fairy tale Southern movie that, if we remember correctly, was a pretty good one, like of how to work the Southern setting while not glossing over racism, bigotry, sexism, or any of that, while not glossing over it or glorifying it, but instead dealing with it head on while also telling a lovely romantic fairy tale. So that said, eventually we will remember it, I guess, for part 2 next year. But in the meantime, the ones that we found, actually, the movies that also told Southern stories in a way that works and that are less problematic include Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Mississippi Masala, and Mississippi Damned. Well, yes, 3 of these movies take place in Mississippi. It's not like we're partial or anything. I don't know what you're talking about. But what we liked about these movies from a storytelling perspective is that none of these movies try to glorify prejudice or bigotry. They don't try to gloss over the South's very troubled history or any kind of corruption. And instead, they deal with problems as they are, and they deal with people, and they don't try to. Okay, so there's this thing like Hollywood, and I want to say, let's say mainstream traditional publishing sometimes does. by making these sort of smoothed out stereotypes of people. Versus in the South, I love that line about we don't hide our crazy. We put it on the front porch for everybody to appreciate. We don't hide it up in the attic or down in the basement. We put it out on the front porch, y'all, so you all know what our family's crazy is. And that's pretty true. I mean, quirkiness, eccentricity, or even just straight up mental health issues are, not, we don't pretend like they don't exist, because I have noticed that in other parts of the country, that is more common to just gloss over any family or domestic troubles. And down here, it's a little different than that. We don't do it the same way. I'm not saying we don't gloss over domestic problems, but it's a different flavor, I'll say.
But it's also why we also encounter, you see a lot more even references to people of different sexualities, even decades ago when it wasn't appropriate. But like Midnight in the Garden, Good and Evil, when the main character is trans, it's a trans woman who was the real, how this reporter got to know what was really going on in this town in Savannah.
Yeah. The lady Chablis is played by the trans woman who was helpful for the journalist writing this book. Chablis, I can't remember her last name, but she had a whole chapter devoted to her in the book, and I'm really glad that in the movie they had her play herself, because I thought that was a very honest and humane way of portrayal. Because I hate it when they have someone else portray a character that it's like you could tell when the actor did not really do any research. It's real obvious. Versus Chablis is playing herself. We presume that she kept her standards and was like, yes or no, that's not appropriate. And I was like, this is like such a great trans character in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I love it. And I love that she's definitely her own quirky self. She has her boundaries, and she builds her relationships, and she's not a caricature. She's a real person. So that means that she is diverse, and sometimes that means that maybe her motivations don't quite make sense to the rest of us, just like all other human beings. But, she has her own internal logic. I mean, that's what I love about this character. She's very much three-dimensional. And that reflects the trans and non-binary people that I know personally here in the South, but it's so rare for me to see them portrayed as actual three-dimensional characters with their own character arcs, their own background or backstory. And it's so nice because, one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to realize is in the South, we have more LGBTQIA plus people per capita than any other region of America. We also are the most diverse region in the entire U.S. The South is. And I think that says a lot about, people want to say the South is, there's all red states. It's all this, it's all that. And it's like, y'all have no idea how really diverse and unique everywhere in the South is, as well as just, it's not just the storytelling. It's the people that make it up are so interesting, unique. Everyone here is allowed to be yourself, at least to a certain point. Oh, sure, people are going to say things. But, for the most part, there's not much censure beyond that. Now, there are moments where there's a line has been crossed. Hence, most of the storyline for Mississippi Masala about this interracial couple, Denzel Washington. And I'm sorry. Cried. I also love Too Much to Do About Nothing. If you haven't watched it, everybody should totally check it out. And Keanu Reeves as his brother. Yes, hello. Can I get more? But anyhow, that with it's essentially Ugandan Indians who moved to Greenwood, Mississippi, after Idi Amin took control of Uganda and kicked out all Asians out of Uganda. They moved to where some of their family was living in Greenwood, Mississippi. I know, what a trip. And Denzel Washington is a local carpet cleaner who is running his own business. It is based on a real person in Greenwood, Mississippi, who is a carpet cleaning business, and the real person is also named Demetrius. Seriously, if you kind of read between the lines of this movie and what the writer and director, because the director also wrote the story. If you like read between the lines here, it's like, was this like Stella got her groove back before Stella got her groove back? I mean, I do wonder. But anyhow, and when like their relationship is found out by her community, they both experience a lot of problems socially, and like his business is affected, and the bank is interested in closing down his loan that he got for his van, for his carpet cleaning business. So there's like a certain point, and I think that's what works with it is there's so much honesty in the story, but yet the most of the characters, for instance, in Mississippi Masala, are fairly three-dimensional. There are, with the exception, like Anil and his wife. I do not know why we keep going back to them in this movie. We only go back to them to see how terrible the beginning of their marriage is. And I mean, like, Anil is just a total jerk, and I don't understand why we keep revisiting his character, because there's no character development. There's no character explanation. I don't understand what's going on. But the main part of the story absolutely works, and it is shot all over Mississippi. Like, honestly, the whole time we were watching the movie, we're like, I know where that is. I know where that is. I have played Goofy Golf there. They have closed it down now on the coast. You know where Camille, did you ever get to play Goofy Golf down on I-90?
No, I've actually never played Goofy Golf anywhere.
Oh, I am so sorry for you. You've missed out on something that you don't know, that, you know, you have a tragic backstory now for lack of Goofy Golf. But I think, isn't the shark head still there? The big shark head souvenir?
Yeah, it's still there.
Camille, get rid of that. Not Camille. Sorry. Hurricane Camille. Or, no, Hurricane Katrina is the one I was thinking of.
Katrina, yeah.
Look, your mama named you that, okay? I have. I mean, it's a serious hurricane.
Yeah.
But you know, the shark head souvenir shop, have you been to the Gulfport, Biloxi area, right?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Well, there used to be, it's gone now, across the way, like on the beach side from the shark head, the big shark head souvenir shop, there used to be a Goofy Golf and a petite Ferris wheel, if you will. I think it only could fit like 8 or 12 cars on it. It was quite small. And that's where we used to go Goofy Golf, because it had a really big windmill. And our dad loved Goofy Golf, so I'm quite good at short game in golf now. Oh, I could putt. And we would just go there all the time because it's also really cheap. So it was one of these of like, oh, I know where that is. It's not there anymore. Because Katrina definitely got rid of it. You know, when all that got destroyed, a lot of it didn't come back.
Yeah, it just got wiped off. But yeah, like watching Mississippi Masala is kind of an interesting little time capsule. And you see how, even though it's you know, about an Indian and a black social group, all of a sudden everyone closes ranks on everyone else. So the black community closes up on the Indian and the white community. The white community all of a sudden closes up on the black and the Indian community. Like, it is this strange situation that...
And you talk about it in the movie.
Yeah. Because that's something else, to us, really separates between when they tell the story well and when they don't, is have your characters comment on the situation. Don't expect your audience to do the heavy lifting to, you know, interpret all this. Let them know. You know, have your
if it's appropriate for your character to comment on it, have them comment on it. Like, that was actually what frustrated me about Beautiful Creatures, a movie I enjoy. But, so, it's obviously an integrated school. We see in the background of the high school scenes, and there's, you know, black kids as well. And then the best friend of, you know, the mean girl is also black. They're both mean. And every student is required for, on Christmas break to go part of this Civil War battle reenactment. And then we see very briefly at the end of the movie when they're doing that there are Black students in, full regalia. And I'm like, they're required to go do a reenactment about a fight over slavery. Excuse me? Like, that is so tone deaf. That is terrible to have to require. And none of the characters say anything about this. Like, I think at the very least, like, you could have two. You can either do the reenactment or you can write an essay over Christmas break. See, that is, I think, far more appropriate in a high school setting. But no, we're going to have everybody have to go fight this battle again. Essentially, every year they reenact a freaking Civil War battle for Christmas. And I'm like, it's one thing to have it. It's another thing to not let the characters comment on how inappropriate this is in the 21st century. And that's where it came off as tone deaf. So it's not that you can't have these kind of things. It's that, why didn't a single character say something?
Mm-hmm.
That's what felt false or odd, is like, surely there are students who don't want. Now, look, there's probably white students who don't want to do this for any reason. And they're like, I don't want to do this. And they may bring up like, oh, but it's such a terrible, why do we have to do this? This is terrible. It's Civil War. Let it die. And they don't even have that conversation. Nothing. And that frustrated me about that, as far as what didn't work about stories set in the South versus like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which I enjoyed. I mean, I'm going to tell you, when I had the video store, we rented this movie out a lot. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I had both conservative people as well as liberals argue with me about how inappropriate it was that I carried this movie. For real. I got it on both ends. I was so ticked off. Because there is a scene where the KKK is having a lynching, a hanging meeting or whatever. And they're going to hang one of the characters we already know. And they are dancing in the scene. And I mean, and it is a big production scene. And I had liberal customers complain like how it was so inappropriate that I had that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, at what point did it make the KKK members look good? I mean, frankly, they weren't even doing a good job dancing. But, later, the leader of the group outs himself on radio and in person at a political rally, at his own political rally, I believe. And everybody turns on him. Everyone turns on him at the thing. Like, it's an enormous fundraiser type thing. And everyone turns on him, again, as he's yelling out about miscegenation. And they all turn on him, as well as the people listening to the radio production of this are also like, what the? And so I'm like, at what point does it make the KKK or members of the KKK look good? I mean, heck, John Goodman plays the one-eyed devil in this movie. And he is a Bible salesman who steals and robs people and is a member of the KKK. At what point does this look good? I did not feel like this was in any way glorifying the Klan at all. And yet people were just knee-jerk, oh, how could you have that? I'm like, oh, I'm not going to pretend it's not real, because I myself have run away from inadvertent Klan sleepovers I did not realize before I had showed up to as a child. Yeah, in Glendale.
What's he say? I think we all think the masks were a great idea. Maybe could have been done a little better. Yeah, that it's all it's intended to make them look stupid. Like, the intention is to make it seem stupid and ignorant. So it's like, and the movie's a comedy, but I feel like nowhere in the narrative of the story was there ever an argument that, like, the KKK was having a space in this movie because the narrative allowed for it. It was more of like, we're making fun of this you know, these comical idiots who, you know, put bags over their heads and are like arguing amongst themselves, and you know, they don't know why they're even doing what they're doing. They're just kind of like being idiotic about it. And I feel like if a movie is like glossing over the KKK, it would be that character had no retribution, or you know, had a redeeming arc, right? But I didn't see that in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Like, there was no redeeming arc for any of those characters.
No.
Right. I mean, like, the governor, while, you know, he is not what I would call an exemplary character, he is not in any way concerned about the miscegenation of a musical group. He is merely concerned with getting reelected, and he does not have an agenda of bigotry, of racism, prejudice of any kind, or even misogyny. At least it's not shown in the film.
Right.
And he does turn out better as far as for his character. I mean, he does presumably get reelected, versus his opponent, you know, who is part of the KKK, is truly, literally run out on a rail, which I found. I laughed so hard about that. Like, wow, they really did it. I mean, you always hear about it, and here we are. I mean, I remember the first time I saw this movie in the theater, and to see the KKK members, you know, like it was over 100 people in that seat, and they're doing a choreographed dance number before they hang Robert Johnson. It's supposed to be Robert Johnson, or at least their version of Robert Johnson. And I'm like, wait, what? They are doing a dance number before a hanging? Are these people for real? I mean, it was truly to take what is a joke, but a benign violation. You have the violation, which is the KKK, let alone organized and hanging or trying to hang Robert Johnson. And then you make it benign with they're doing a dance number. I mean, what they're still trying to do is terrible and violent. However, thankfully, they do not succeed because the rest of the group, in their own crazy, chaotic, inadvertent way, still get Robert Johnson out of there and move on. And I do love that they are able to take a very serious subject and like not get mired down with it. Versus, like, what I thought worked with Oh Brother Where Art Thou is they used geography to move the plot forward. Which is not unlike, what is it? Was it the Odyssey? Yes, the Odyssey.
Yeah, the Odyssey.
Look, I'm dyslexic, so I'm always mixing up the Iliad and the Odyssey. I mean, you wouldn't think, but yeah, here I am.
Now, we can make a comparison between movies that have addressed the KKK and not done it well. And that scene. For instance, like, it makes me think of Forrest Gump. Okay, his grandfather was Nathan Bedford Forrest. And then it shows this black and white historic scene of KKK leading like a charge. And it gives no context as to what it is, that it's evil, that it's bad. And I remember watching that as a kid and being familiarized with the image of a Klansman with no negative connotation on it whatsoever.
Well, I think that they're referencing.
So I was like, what is
that movie called? The one that's about the KKK? What was it? You know what I'm talking about.
Birth of a Nation.
That's it. I was like, I'm terrible titles. They're referencing Birth of a Nation.
Right.
And that movie, again, when it was released, had no negative or perceived negative connotations. It came out, you know, what is it, the 20s or the late teens?
Teens.
And it was like one of the first full feature silent films, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And nobody thought anything wrong with it.
Well, it's weird to me because it's like, okay, you have something, when you're dealing with something evil,
right?
There's truth, right? And so art is meant to like communicate truth in like a creative way. But if you spend something, and I'm sure that every person, every Klansman, maybe he gave $5 to a homeless man, but who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure that he's done something good in his life, objectively good, but it doesn't matter in the context of the organization. It has to do with the insides of the person, the mindset, and an evil, hateful perspective of life. So it's like when you portray it without that truth behind it of the negative connotation, it becomes propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think that Forrest Gump, when they did it, that was necessarily, I think that was just kind of like, oh, we're talking about a story in the South. Of course, like, we're going to have a blip of the KKK in this movie, but it did nothing for Forrest Gump's character arc.
No.
Like,
No.
it had no context about his family, like, being racist at all. Like, it was just a blip.
Yeah, they didn't give it context when they showed it. Like,
no,
it was just a sentence or more.
His name, which had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, to simply state why it was bad that his, whatever grandfather, great-grandfather was Nathan Bedford Forrest. Why this was such a bad thing. Versus just like literally listing historical facts, which are, in and of themselves can be neutral. They didn't give context for the viewers, and that was the problem. Versus like, Brother, Where Art Thou? We know before we really know what's going on, there's context. We have our character who we have already become attached to, Robert Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that they have him and that they're going to do something bad because it's the KKK. And our characters, Everett and I can't remember the other two, but, darling George Clooney and the crew are automatically reacting for us. They're giving us emotional context of their genuine concern for their buddy, Robert Johnson, of we got to go get him. They're going to do something terrible. This is not good. And they're going to now go risk their lives. So we automatically get context before we really get into the full scene of the KKK with their meeting.
Right. And let me answer something real quick.
Oh, what
you asked, wouldn't that have been true of Forrest's character? He rarely asked questions or made judgments. Well, the thing is, when Forrest Gump is talking about it, he talks about it as if, like, because what he's been told is his grandfather is like a hero, and so it's got the film of the Klansman on the horse running with the background, dun da 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 dun da da dun da 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 dun da da, and it seems heroic. It seems like a heroic scene. So, like, especially as a kid watching it, it makes like a hero. Like, of course, that's an adult movie. But an adult would have understood the context.
So here's a way to show though the difference of wait. You can't use that as an excuse because we have Forrest and we have multiple other characters on at the same time comment about the Vietnam War and how awful it is.
Right.
But we never mention how awful
the Klan
any of that is. Yeah. And again, to say, no, they did that for the things they didn't like. What they didn't agree with, they still did.
But they were silent on the things that they knew they shouldn't like, but they're totally okay with.
Right.
I mean, and to give you another example of giving context to things, although not necessarily even at the moment, in Mississippi Masala, they get kicked out in 1972. And
the Indian family kicked out.
The Indian family gets kicked. And that's all we know. And we, towards the end of the movie, find out that
spoilers.
So the Indian father who grew up in Uganda all his life and got kicked out was.
So they're third generation Ugandans.
Yeah, and so very much feels like he is Ugandan. I mean, his family's been there for 3 generations. His brother, who he grew up with, who is, what's the saying? A brother from another mother.
Yep.
Who was a black Ugandan. Spent a fortune bailing him out the night before they get kicked out of the country. And he didn't forgive his brother for being okay with him getting kicked out. And so we don't have any real context, though, about like how awful Idi Amin was. And how awful all of this really was and what's going on in Uganda. Till he goes back and we find out, oh no, your brother was killed shortly after you left. He was
Or
disappeared,
he disappeared.
and then they found the body. And he's like, wait, what? I didn't know that. And all this. So you do eventually find out the context of, yes, they got kicked out of Uganda, but truth be told, you got lucky, and your brother. And they even show a scene where the brother is trying to bail him out, and the guard is like, if I release this Indian, they're gonna come for me, because I'm gonna be showing that I am not hating the Asians. And so essentially his brother knew what he was doing, getting himself into this danger.
Yeah, his brother, his best friend knew that he was risking his own life and the life of other people involved by getting his best friend out of jail, because the guy had gone on television saying that Idi Amin was evil. Excuse me. So yeah, he was about to get killed.
So again, like, they do context it. Like, and there's difference of, you don't have to immediately, but later on show the why this was bad. Versus, if you want to talk about another glossing over, as much as I do enjoy the visuals and some of the storytelling, Big Fish, that takes place in Alabama, glosses over everything, as well as, that's the whitest Alabama I have ever seen in a movie.
I know, for real.
Like, I didn't know there were no black people in Alabama. What is this place?
What did you say? You didn't know there was what?
There were no black people in Alabama.
Look, I'm going to just say it. It's a very racist version of Alabama to say there are no black people in any part of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are plenty everywhere. And to whitewash them out of any film, right there is racism.
Right.
Because, as I said, the South is more diverse than any other region in the U.S. And it's also not just black people. We also have a ton of Asians.
There's a reason why Mississippi has the Pearl River. And it's also why we are known for shrimping.
Why we have Canton.
Yes, and why we have Canton, Mississippi.
It's not an accident.
And why Mississippi is known for shrimping. And it's because of Southeast Asians, Vietnamese, Laotians, and Chinese, who all came over more than 100 years ago.
Yeah. And we have quite a, subcontinent Indian population as well. Pearl River was named Pearl River because we had so many Chinese immigrants in the 1800s.
So again, it's like, it's so mixed and diverse here. Whenever it's just really white, it's weird.
It's very jarring for me. Anytime I see some representation of the South where there's only white people, and I'm like, in what world is this? I have traveled all over the South.
There's nowhere that's homogenous. Okay? It doesn't exist down here. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
I mean, I know that in theory there used to be sundown towns in Mississippi, but as far as what I have heard, there hasn't been a sundown town left in Mississippi since the 50s. However, there still are sundown towns in Pennsylvania. There still are sundown towns elsewhere. God, Oregon was an entire sundown state, for heaven's sakes.
And Idaho.
I mean, they literally did not allow black people in after dark in the entire state of Oregon and Idaho. How is that a thing? So, I mean, if you showed me Oregon or Idaho and there's no people of color, I can buy that. But why would anywhere in Alabama not have a variety of people of color? What is that about? That is weird.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's people putting, whether they realize they're being racist or not, they are certainly putting some idea of systemic racism onto their idea of the South, because they're, again, kind of buying into this glorification of the South being a certain way, very sort of Gone with the Wind, Song of the South portrayal.
No, it's not.
That the only people of color are somehow subservient or in the direct employ of people on a personal basis, that they are not autonomous. I mean, it just boggles my mind. And it is like a big flag for me when I watch any kind of medium or read any story where there are references like this. I'm like, oh, this person's racist. That's how I can tell. Is they're portraying the South, but they're portraying this very distinct narrative that is very sort of Gone with the Wind, Birth of a Nation idea of the South versus what the actual South really reflects.
Right. We're separated, for sure. We definitely have our zones that we deal with. And, you know, there are places where things are separate, but it's really big groups of people living the same life.
I mean, like
doing it on the backside of each other's neighborhood.
I would say here's an easy way to understand it is if you look at a map of where we live, Hattiesburg, you'll notice that there are alternating rows of very wide streets and very narrow streets.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very specific reason for this. And it's because on the wide streets, that's where the white families were with their big houses and properties. And on those narrow streets, literally behind the property of the white family, were all the people who worked for them.
Uh-huh.
Even after, the Civil War and everything else, that's how this one broke down, is, all the black servants and all the other people of color lived on the street literally behind. And they would, come over to the house and do the work.
Right. See, my favorite study, kind of sociological study of the South, is generally in the poverty, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you find the strongest held bigoted beliefs.
Oh, the prosperity gospel.
Yeah, and it's also where you find the most genuine misery. And this exists. My favorite two places in the world are in the Pearl River Basin, and they're parallel communities. One is down this interstate, one's down this interstate. They're completely parallel. There's Cheraw, Mississippi, and there's Hub, Mississippi. Cheraw is white meth land. Hub is black meth land. They're right next to each other. But you can tell there's like this deviation of races. And it's just so, it's incredible to me how, like, the more struggle, the more deeply held that kind of segregating mindset of like those really traditional beliefs. And I don't understand that necessarily because I'm not an affluent person at all. And like, you can look at the government systems and how they work and be like, you need to, like, you're not even on the side that gives a shit about you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that actually kind of brings up another movie we were talking about, and we weren't sure like where we really rest on it. But there was a movie in the late 2000s called Mississippi Damned, which is entirely an autobiographical movie, and it mostly takes place
in Oktibbeha County, outside of Tupelo.
And it's mostly just with the black families there, and it's mostly about this one extended black family there, and it is watching actual hell on earth. Like watching people in hell,
like,
because there's no contrast.
We were like, wow, this is the bad place. Like, this is hell. It's like watching a slow motion horror film.
And the reason why I bring it up about this is everyone in this story, in this family, is constantly under stress. They never have a chance to take a breath and relax for a moment. There's always something. It's so highly stressed.
Well, they're always in crisis. They're always crisis cycling.
And so if you stay in this state of crisis, you never have and so it's understandable when they always make bad choices, because they just go with the first choice they can think of.
Not with the best choice.
Because they are in crisis. They don't have time to take a step back.
Right.
They have to do something right now, or it could get even worse.
Is your hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, since we're talking about movies, this is not set in the directional South, but I personally believe that anywhere rural is the South across the United States, you're going to find the same kind of culture.
Sure. Yeah.
One of the best Southern Gothic movies I've literally ever seen in my life is The Devil All the Time. It's on Netflix. It is absolutely relentless. Like, I had an anxiety attack from the beginning of that movie till the end. And it was like, it was everything the worst. It was the worst of the absolute worst that you can find, like, in that rural setting. And I believe it was a period film. It wasn't like set in the modern era, but it was so interesting to me that it was like nothing is glossy. It's the opposite of glossy. It's like
Great.
you hit an issue head on, and then you're like, I can't believe they really just hit that issue head on. And then literally you have 5 minutes to process that, and then they hit the next issue, and they hit the next, and they hit the next. And the whole movie is 2 hours of you just getting like waylaid by all of these words, and it's tied together so perfectly where you see the system, the toxic cycle of all of this heinous, disgusting, horrible cycle rectifies itself, because it's like everyone is getting their own karma back. It's like this I don't even know how to say it. It's like, you know what you were saying, like making the first choice instead of the best choice.
Right.
And it's like that, what I was saying earlier about how these communities have kind of been left to their own defenses to kind of figure out how to create their own culture and code of ethics and morals and stuff.
Sure.
Which are also, we're often so deviated from what we think are normal. For instance, like, you know, the murder, like, you know, when you read a folk noir and there's like murder, it's generally because like the people of the town think it's best for this person to die. And it's like, we're going to handle this problem. And that's how we handle the problem. But The Devil All the Time, I swear, it was like, I can only aspire to such genius. It was so good. Have y'all seen it?
I have not even heard of it, although I've heard of the book.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God. No, we have to stop it. We have to have a Netflix party after this, because it is so good. So,
I mean, it sounds interesting, and we did put up a link. Tom posted a Wikipedia link for anybody to look into it.
Yeah, it'll piss you off the whole time until like the last 30 minutes, and you're like,
and that was
retribution.
Yeah, I would say, and that was our problem actually with Mississippi Dam.
And that was why we debated whether to put it on our list of recommendation of like to see how to tell stories set in the South appropriately, tell well,
because there's no
all the ones
contrast. Yeah, it only goes down.
That is our issue with it, is it's just one horrible thing after another, and there's no contrast of anything good, anyone good, anything. It's just all these people doing terrible things to each other over many years.
On the other hand, it did give us an interesting idea.
It does have a young Tessa Thompson in it, so she's fantastic, as well as, what is it, TV Woodside? No.
Yeah, DB Woodside's in there.
TV Woodside is also amazing and obviously has not aged a minute. But yeah, like that is our issue with, like, we were like, but we were like, look, it's good enough.
And it did remind us of something, which is like Mississippi as a state does have, like, we do have a virtue. Mississippi does have a virtue, and that is hospitality.
Right.
We truly do want people to feel welcome.
Right.
And Mississippi Dam brings up the sin of Mississippi, which is pride.
Pride.
because everything that goes wrong is based on pride.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Not wanting, people to talk about your business when what your business is you're looking for a job.
Right.
I mean, that's how you get a job is you start talking to all your family and friends. Does anybody know?
That's so
Or,
true.
Or like ditto for if you're ready to date, you start talking to all your friends. Hey, anybody got anybody to date? Let's see. And that is how you find people. And, instead they're like, how dare you talk about my business to your own family? Like, that's not the same as like airing your business on the street.
Yeah.
Real quick though, just a side note, a sundown, we talked about it in chat, but a sundown town is a town where either Black people or people of color are not allowed to enter at all safely. That is touched on in, what was that HBO show that just ended, the H.P. Lovecraft? Was it Lovecraft Country?
Yeah.
That is touched on in Lovecraft Country. But also Sundown Towns, some of them, because at a certain point you need somebody to do the work. I'm just saying. Is where people of color are allowed to work or do commerce in the town during the day, but must leave by sundown in order to not get tangled with the law or get tangled in with other members of the town and disappear or get violently abused. Let's just say that, but like essentially, if you know what's good for you, you'll be gone by sundown. And there's no sundown towns left anymore in Mississippi. I'm not trying to say any propaganda. I'm saying, like, as far as, believe me, I have asked around and I have asked people of color specifically, are there any sundown towns? Because again, one of the things that we came across is my brothers, while I am pale as the literal wall behind me, my brother and sister in the summertime, when they get sun, turn the color of the wood on Camille ceiling or darker. Like, and they have had trouble when they've traveled like up to Pennsylvania and found out by accident that they were in sundown towns and told you better leave before sunset. And they were told that at diners. So,
and then followed out of town.
And then literally followed out of town.
Yeah.
And so I'm always careful to try to know anywhere I'm traveling, are there any sundown towns? Because I don't want to end up having to, get violent with people trying to get violent with my people.
Right.
I mean, I try not to be a violent lady, but I don't like people treating my people badly. There, I said it. I'm a bitch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
are y'all horror fans? Are y'all horror fans?
Like, I like some. Tom talks about Cabin in the Woods all the time.
We're more the horror comedy.
Bill Skarsgård, who did the clown for It, the new movies, he's one of the main characters in The Devil All the Time. Just so y'all know. Really, really great. And I've got two other recommendations.
Sure.
One I haven't seen yet, but it's like one of my most highly anticipated. I'm going to get my hands on it somehow. Hillbilly Elegy is also on Netflix, and that was a memoir by a man who kind of like escaped like the cycle of poverty in his family and stuff, and so it kind of tells how he was pulled between the two worlds. And
I know that one was really popular at our library system. We even had it as a book club book.
And Ron Howard just produced the movie for Netflix. And it's out. We watched it last night. It was so good. And also, there's a true crime series on HBO Max called No One Saw a Thing.
I've seen ads for that.
About, what is it? Skid something.
Skid Row?
Skidmore. And about like this murder that happened that like the whole town knew about, but no one said anything, and they all kind of lived with it on their conscience. And then there was like this spiral into all this bad stuff happening in the town, but no one wanted to tell their business, right? And everyone kept it a secret. And that's like a true story. And
that's sort of like the night the lights went out in Georgia, sort of that narrative or trope.
Yeah, which I think for me right now, I'm really in love with the dark. I love dark books. I love dark stories anyway. But as much as I want the South to get like a fair portrayal, I think that there's like this kind of like want to see the bad. Like, because we've had the Gone with the Wind, and we've had the antebellum hoop skirt kind of glorification for so long. And I've really seen a rise in folk noir and just like those really dark, folky stories, because it was like they were really portrayed. And you have to think of how many people were raised in families from small towns. And I think it's really kind of cathartic for all of us who came out of places where questionable things happened and this gaslighting happened, and we had to kind of keep our abuse a secret because of our reputation. It's kind of nice seeing all of the extremism come out in this folk noir, like this dark folk noir trend right now, because it's not glorified in any kind of way.
I mean, like, honestly, the stories I've heard that people I know in person have experienced in their life of truly like how I escaped Houston, Mississippi kind of stories,
right,
are like, I mean, honestly, Southern Gothic and folk noir have nothing on real life.
Right.
And again, it's that pride that keeps the abusers safe.
Right. And I like that they're not safe anymore. I like that these stories of, sexual abuse amongst families and corruption and violence and domestic abuse. I like that this is all coming to light, because I'm like, this is the way that we bring it out for everyone to see, and then it's no longer normalized. For instance, in Hattiesburg a couple months ago, I'm not sure if y'all saw the story, this teenage girl posted a picture of herself with her friends. This was literally down the road from us. And she had people of color in the picture. And her parents beat her within an inch of her life.
No, I hadn't heard of this one.
Yeah. No. And they beat the crap out of her. They kicked her out of the house. And then she ended up doing time in jail for posting her story on Facebook and pictures of her bruises and her busted up lip and everything. Was like, my parents beat the shit out of me because I posted a picture with my black friend and this is our text conversation. And she had to do jail time for publicizing her text messages. And this is the kind of thing where I'm like, thank you. Yes, Netflix, put out all the folk noir. Put it out there, because there are people literally to this day can't just walk in. I mean, I have a similar story. Just when it comes to it's so nice, and the whole the hospitality thing. It's like, yeah, but within our families, to outsiders, we want to seem so innocuous, but within our own families, there's this fine line. Almost like generations of trauma and abuse causing this dissociation, just generation after generation of mental illness that's kept under this very tightly compacted, contained veneer of the Southern Belle with your mint julep and come have some sweet tea and we're going to have some red beans and rice. But you cross over that boundary of what they think is acceptable, and they go back to that violent route so fast. I mean, I've had this shit beat out of me too for something as simple as, being sexually active. And it's like, that's, oh, hey, honey. Husband's home from work. But that's why I write folk noir, because even though the one thing that I do love about folk noir is that there's always that love of the South that kind of currents underneath it, where you love the simplicity, you love the landscape, you love nature and the quiet, and you love what it's supposed to be, but you can't truly love that without putting the truth out on the top first. And then what you feel from that, you can actually exist in the South in a way that is nice, and you can have a normal life.
Well, as I said, we grew up in the 90s up in Oxford, And my mom did a couple years doing, I can't remember what it's called, not Rural Voices. It was for the feds, where they were trying to preserve oral histories. And one of the things she kept hearing over and over and over again is just how much William Faulkner was reviled by everyone in town. And because
The man
all
was
those stories,
considered a town gossip.
yes, all the stories he wrote,
Got a Pulitzer Prize for being a freaking town gossip. They were all so pissed.
like the old people would literally go, "Oh, you know that story that involved this and this? That happened at the house like 3 doors down." And this one, it was them.
The one who was, his daughter and da da da. Oh yeah, and this is from this story. Yeah, Faulkner wrote about it. It happened down 3 streets over. Da da. This house, the blue house. Da da da. And that was such and such granddaddy. Da da da.
Like Faulkner did not make up anything. He was just a good town gossip reporter.
I'm very proud of him.
Right.
I mean, he did great things despite his alcoholism. There, I said it. But yeah, like he wasn't. He was a true Southern writer in that he didn't really write fiction. He only wrote real life and passed it off as fiction. And I mean, it is what Tom keeps encouraging me to do.
I mean, that's also why Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil works, is because a lot of the people in that movie, if they don't look like known actors, they're locals playing themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
They are all characters in Savannah.
There are real people. A lot of the people at the Christmas party are actually playing themselves. That's why you don't see these actors in anything else hardly, is because they're just local people. They're just Savannah locals. And they were like, hey, play yourself. And so, because like Hollywood actors would maybe have an issue portraying a real person as, this outlandish, versus Savannah is like, yeah, no, this is how we are. We're over the top.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's this great recurring character in there of a guy who has been disbarred. He's a disbarred lawyer who just throws house parties at houses of the rich people who have left town for a couple months. And he just, will jury rig the power to turn it back on for this house.
Yep.
And they just hold house parties there. And they come to watch the show when the cops show up, and he is there standing on the street with a thing of canapes, just like asking, would anyone like a snack while we're watching the show?
Yeah, that's apparently real.
Of like, no, this is the South I know.
And I mean, like, honestly, the parties in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, I was like, and that was like the only time I've missed my Alabama in-laws in like 10 years, was like, oh, I miss the parties though. I miss these Southern parties, these off-the-wall parties. But real quick, I do want to go ahead and say, hey, Charlie, it's so lovely to see you. And you are absolutely right. You can't heal a wound you're pretending doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. You are absolutely right. Preach it.
And really, like, let's make sure no one ever feels comfortable or safe doing bad things to other people. No, they need to be worrying for the rest of their life of when is it going to come out? When am I going to have to pay that debt for all my sins?
I mean, yeah. Oh, I have so many things.
See, I would like to personally be that debt collector.
There's a Southern Gothic series.
Well, my first novel I had to shelve because I was like, I published this novel and no one in my family will ever speak to me again. And I'm like, I don't give a shit how they feel about it. But I'm like, the thing is, I only write what I see.
Right.
That's it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I see things. What I do for research is on Saturdays, sometimes Sunday afternoon, my husband and I get in the car and we just start driving. And the further out into nowhere we get, the further we drive. And the further we drive, it's almost like we're trying to find the edge of the world, right? Just like, how far into nothing can you possibly get? And that is my favorite place in the entire world, wherever that is. The further away from anything, that's what I love to see, because you won't even freaking believe what you'll see out there.
Well, that's why we've been getting
we're 2 hours away from
which, by the way, I did just find my photos, the one I've been promising you. I did just find this week the prints
But yeah.
Of what? Mini
Oh,
farm?
yeah. Well, not mini farm. This is a different one of like, oh, you want to see some Mississippi train wreck houses? Here we go. I got some stuff like, that I was gonna show you, but yeah, that's for later. Which will eventually be on my website. Yeah. Let's see. Charlie says, my granny always told me Jesus forgives, the devil always remembers. Don't think you won't eventually have to pay. The devil is due.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and can let's just talk tea about that.
Charlie's here.
Charlie's here. Yeah, baby. You know, you got a StreamYard link if you want to join us. You can join us in
Charlie
mode.
I have opinions about Hattiesburg. As much as I love Hattiesburg, I really do. Like our little annual popularity contest that we do.
Oh, which one?
And so sweet, so cute. I love how everyone thinks that's so important. And it's so incredible to me. I always say that Hattiesburg is it's a small town with like a big city ego.
Yes.
I'm like, because it thinks it's everything. It thinks it's the metropolis.
And we got an airport.
We have a municipal airport, y'all.
Oh God. With weeds growing up in the cracks of the pavement on the runway. Like,
So funny. Welcome to the show.
No, yeah, and it's funny to me how our town, though it's so big, is only kind of like paid for by a handful of people.
Mm-hmm. Because they keep out all the industry.
You at least know one. We all know at least the one.
Oh, here's one. You want to talk about tea in where we live?
Mm-hmm.
There is a movie called Leaves of Grass that supposedly takes place, I believe, in Ohio.
Oh, I thought it was Oklahoma.
Maybe Oklahoma.
Richard Dreyfuss, I think, is in it.
Yeah. It is actually a movie about Hattiesburg. It is about one particular family in Hattiesburg.
Like, it's supposedly based off the book, Leaves of Grass. However, I happen to know one family's history that's like 70, 80, 90 years now of their family history. And I'm like, I know this story. This is this particular family here in town. And all of these things happened. I mean, including the junkyard. Okay. You know, there's only so many families that own junkyards in this town. So yes, it is one of the junkyard owner families. And this whole thing, I'm like, I don't know where this person gets off calling this, based off of, what is it? Well, Whitman? I don't remember. Somebody wrote
Yeah.
Because this is not that book. Story. No, it is not. I even checked the book, and it does not follow the Leaves of Grass story.
I say, as a big fan of Leaves of Grass, if there's not a whole bunch of like men's rolling on top of each other in the sand naked, it's not Leaves of Grass. I've read that book.
Oh yeah.
There's a little, but there's not enough. I'll just.
For anyone wondering, there's the link.
They're more like rolling on each other in a junkyard. But that actually happened because I heard about it from the second wife of, the son of the owner of the junkyard.
Leaves of Grass is the Dante's Cove of the Civil War. It's just nothing but hot, nubile men rolling on top of each other for a very long time.
No. There definitely was not enough gayness for that. No.
Yeah.
I want my only goal is that, I will become such a figurehead in this town that they will come to me and ask me to host Pride of the Pine Belt. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have Camille here. I'm like, that's right, because y'all made my life hell. I mean, for real. Oh, God. After this is over, I've got tea. No, I've got tea.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, Kat is going to go play Stardew Valley on Twitch at, let's see, in an hour from now. Do y'all hear an echo?
Yeah, I'm hearing an echo too.
Anyway. No, I don't hear the echo anymore. So, and there's the link in case you want to go or in case you want to open it up and save it in a tab so you can then watch Kat's very relaxing, very adorable Stardew Valley game. I highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend anything that Kat does because it's always perfection.
It is
I
always
know.
adorable.
I've been wanting to join her for a while, but it just hasn't worked out with my schedule. But like, it's part of my fantasies of glory. If you get your life together and your, psychology together, maybe you could go play with Kat.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the schedule?
I know
What?
you know nothing about that since you don't even sleep.
Oh my goodness! Like, first of all, I'm a Dorset. We're late for everything. My grandfather was literally late for his own funeral. Like, time won't give me time. I'm just saying. Like, I live in a Boy George song. But
Yes, Charlie, it is lovely to see you, sweetie. I'm sorry I haven't been able to run into you in other ways. I honestly, like a couple of days ago, I was honestly in the mood to chat with somebody. And I was like, maybe I should go into Discord and just invite her and see if she's doing anything. And
it
then
probably would have worked.
I overthought it again. This is like my greatest weakness is I overthink myself into submission.
It's been a rough 2 weeks for Gloria and I. We have been highly stressed. So, I mean...
And that's what I do when I'm really stressed and upset and heartbroken is I just withdraw. I just stay in my little toady hole. And I don't come out except when I absolutely have to, like this, where I learned from the video store days, if you better show up when you say you're going to show up, everybody wants to make sure, even if they don't show up, that you showed up on time. And so that's why we do this, is because the video store trained me of like, never be late opening the store.
That's what I do when I
Vampire.
am in that place.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, oh, believe me, Gloria had so much defeatist talk of, oh no, I don't blame her. Camille's not even going to show up.
I really did say that yesterday. I'm like, I don't blame her if she doesn't show up. If she knows what's good for her, she will not show up. That's I literally that is
because when you're stressed,
I have mental
you're
problems.
sure the rest of the world is, in that awful state that's inside your head. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's ridiculous. Well, you also thought I was a conservative, so.
I mean, like, look, statistically speaking, I wasn't probably wrong.
I thought y'all were conservative.
Oh,
So when I was like, oh God. What are we going to a bunch of Mississippians.
I know we're like the only not conservative people in this town.
Probably.
I just want to say for the record, I think the idea of a lot of us being conservative in this region of the world is a lie. They're just brainwashed into who you can and can't vote for, because back in the day, it was the other way around where you always voted Democrat, you couldn't vote Republican.
Right?
And my great-grandmother was ostracized for I don't know how many years because she voted for Ike. And how dare she vote for Eisenhower? And she was like, but he saved the world, like fighting, like the world.
Literally did,
he saved the world. Like, we I don't think we actually have, like, when you talk to a lot of people around here, they don't really have political opinions as much as they have mythologies and spirituals.
Yeah, one of the things Gloria and I thought about after watching Mississippi Damned and realizing that it gave a great example of, the sin of Mississippi is pride, while our virtue is hospitality. Well, what about every other state? What if, when you set a story there, what is the state's virtue and what is its sin, to help steer and use that location to make its own character?
Tell a type of story that you want to tell. Like, how cool would that be to use it sort of like a plot device, or like as part of the geographic setting of that this is this area's virtue and sin, and this colors everything in this geographic area.
Mm-hmm.
And so also, like, so you have a certain level of honesty or truth there, because, like, what is fiction but you tell a lie to tell the truth?
Yep.
That is fiction. That's what we do, is we tell lies. Every one of us, if you're writing fiction, you're telling lies. Yep. Even when, like, I got a whole story arc set in a psychiatric hospital in Mississippi. And it is absolutely 1000% based on my own personal experiences as a 6-year-old. However, I'm going to lie the crap out of this story so that I can take the reader along with me, because the truth doesn't quite work as a narrative or as a roller coaster of an escape, story. So I have to tell a bunch of lies to tell you the real truth of this darkness, this Southern Gothic tale.
I really like that way of thinking about it because, like, around here, like, I live in Missouri, for those who don't know, and our virtue and our vice are the same thing. It's our stubbornness. It's the only way we've ever actually accomplished anything, but it's also why we can't get anything done.
I mean, I have been meditating on this since I found out that Heinlein and what's his name? I can't remember. And Disney were both from Missouri. And I was like, and their motto is the show me state.
Yep.
And I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, truly, like as a teenager, I was like, what does that mean?
It means I won't believe you till you show me. That's one of the most common phrases around here is I won't believe it until you show me.
Heck, like, around here, you can show people and they still won't believe you necessarily.
Like, we're literally the state of no pick didn't happen. Like, I mean, that's... like, our local team mascot is the mules. Like, there are mules.
I mean, like, it's like a stereotype that I would not have expected Missouri to own.
Oh, no. We're, like, all in on it. Like, this is our thing. Like, we're horrible mud people who, like to think that we're Southern, but we're really mountain folk. We're secretly mountain folk. They're leftovers from the Appalachian Trail.
I'll say they're not even mountain; they're hills. Okay, let's be honest. They're hill people.
I mean, hillbillies are hillbillies, right?
Yeah, all of it just drifted downstream from the Appalachians down into us, and that's what made us who we are. But like, just hearing some of your stories, like my favorite thing is like I started doing family history just so I could clap back at reunions.
Okay, yes. We literally started doing the same thing. I am happy to say, now, just so I'm going to bring up again, I love my mother. She has passed away. I will always love her. And no matter how terrible a person she may have been while she was alive, it never stopped me from loving her. However, that also did not stop me from driving her insane with all of our family genealogy research and just breaking all of her fantasies about her side of the family and our father's side of the family, because even though she was divorced from him, she still had this whole fantasy of how she had married and I'm like, no, baby, it's all trash, you know. And it was like delightful of like explaining to her like, oh no, your mom's father's side, not Jewish, not half as Jewish as you think, because there were no Jews in Joseph Fran's army. We actually
there's a movie about this.
Some asses kept the paperwork, and I'm like, there literally were no Jews. Hence the whole point of the Dreyfus affair. Anyway, and she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, so that side's not as Jewish as you think." Oh, she wouldn't talk to me for days, and I really
Glory. What was it that side of the family all said?
Oh, of course we're Jewish, because who would ever say they were Jewish who wasn't Jewish? They kept all their receipts for every bit of money they spent at the synagogue. So in case anybody questioned them, they're like, we literally have the receipts. Of course, we're Jewish. They were hiding out. From their Austro-Hungarian family roots. Because they were bastards of a line of people that they were killing off all the members of this family. So they moved to America and claimed to be Jewish to hide out among the Jews, because who would ever claim to be Jewish who wasn't Jewish? Yes, I am working on this series as well. Because a Southern writer, why would I ever write true fiction when I can just mind my family from, you know?
I'm just saying, I would be Jewish, but the rabbi said no.
Hi, darling, I still think you are Jewish. There, I said it. So hot. So
I tried, and the rabbi was like, why?
That's what we say to everybody who wants to convert. Why?
I guess
why do you want to be more oppressed, you crazy person?
But I love it. Like, my Aunt Karen has this like idealized view of her side of the family, and I just love it because I carry around in my wallet the clippings of every time our great-great-grandfather murdered one of his wives. And just like, oh yeah, we were
line every time he murdered one of his wives.
Yes, perfect family. Oh, he got two of them.
And the third one figured out enough to get the hell out.
The third one went, oh, I'm next. Grabbed the kids and ran. Which is how we're here now.
Hi, and welcome to Southern Gothic Talk.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Glory. These are my lovely regulars. Camille, Charlie, and Tom.
Yes, I believe there is another Southern one we want to get Charlie on for later. Or was that just...
Oh, the
Southern
Southern queer playwrights?
Yeah.
Or the queer code and queer baiting one.
And according to my great-great-aunt...
I don't think Charlie... Oh, sorry. That was... Don't... That's because of my keyboards over here. My bad.
And according to my great-great-aunt, my great-grandfather actually participated in the Underground Railroad because he figured out it was a really good way to get free labor. Because he basically would have them stay over, but they had to work the farm during the day, and he just told people that they owned them.
All right. So here,
he told people
Gloria,
what?
That he owns them.
Okay.
That's called playing the system.
Yeah.
Like that's... But
so
okay,
he
fine.
technically was a kind of almost good guy, but not really.
All right, Gloria, should we tell the apocryphal because there's no records, because we haven't been to Jackson, because none of the records from the Southern Poverty Commission are online without redactions of what did our grandma do and why?
Oh, nobody knows. That's right, about the NAACP, you mean?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because like technically, supposedly, it's listed in what was it, the Sovereignty Commission's paperwork, but since they've redacted all the names from the records online, ain't nobody know that
even the code names.
They don't even. Yeah, they redacted even the code names for some reason. Yeah, they redacted what our grandma Marty did with the NAACP. She was not a noble person. I'm just going to tell you right now. She was a bitch just like me. Well, a different kind of bitch, but still bitch. You know, like I get it natural is all I'm saying. But because she hated ignorant. So what she did was she tried
to fill in the word that we're not going to say.
Yeah, I'm not going to ever
anywhere.
say this word. But she hated ignorant. So she recruited for the United Negro College Fund. Like she and codename Pookie, a 6.5 foot tall black man in a convertible, would go drive up to the Delta from the coast because Grandma Marty and her husband, Grandpa Rudy, owned an egg farm there in Pascagoula, right? Or was it Mobile? No, it was Pascagoula.
Well, it's Mobile where they actually own the chicken farm, and then they had to move. But anyway, that's another story.
So she also spied on the GOP. She spied, or the RNC. She spied on them because Grandpa Rudy was a regional, what is it called? A regional chairman of the RNC. And so she spied for the United Negro College Fund, NAACP, for them. And he died never knowing. He was her first husband. Anyway, so at night, after he would pass out from getting so drunk at parties that they would host for the RNC.
At least once or twice a week, literally. Yeah.
She would then hop in Pookie's convertible, and they would drive all the way up to the Mississippi Delta to recruit kids, college age or high school age kids in sharecropping farms or, shacks. Would go recruit them to get scholarships in the United Negro College Fund because she, quote, hated ignorant. So her theory was the way to get rid of ignorant, plural, was to go make them go to college by paying them to go to college. And that was like, it's like, she was not like, it's not like, oh, noble person. She was just, but I mean, she would risk her life. Pookie risked his life a lot more. But.
And the cover story was that Pookie was her driver, which is why she was always in the back seat and he was up front. And he was taking her
combat crawling around in the dirt, sneaking into sharecropper homes in the dark of night, like it through midnight.
Yeah, around midnight.
Kids and their parents to let these kids go to college. Just to get rid of a few more ignorant from the world. Yeah, it's like, wow. Damn it. I mean, I'm glad that kids got to go to college. Like, I'm going to just say that. I'm really glad for that. But, damn, my family sometimes sucks a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The number of former strippers and prostitutes who showed up at my grandfather's funeral to give thanks and weep and wail over that man's coffin.
I guess he paid enough, right? Apparently, he at least was a good John.
That man put some women through college. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, truly, like what I like about Southern stories is that all the characters are complex.
Yes.
Yeah, it's never just straightforward.
Right. Nobody is 100% good or 100% evil. And I love that because that is the world I know. Like, one of the things I learned in my, well, I guess, mid-20s was it's not here in where we live now, any of those counties. It's actually up closer to Meridian. And there's a county there that I had to do business in from time to time back in the 2000s. And there was this one bigot. I'm not going to say he was a racist because he was just bigoted about everything and everyone. He was just so hateful. And every time you said hi, he would start spewing hate. You just didn't even want to say hi to him at the gas station, that kind of person. And then, for like 2.5 years, I just tried to avoid him all the time. I just didn't think anything of this rat bastard. And then I heard about a local Black family's house burned down. I mean, like burnt. All they got out was their kids and themselves. They were in night clothes. The car survived, but nothing else. Like they didn't get anything. All the photo albums, everything's gone. And this man very quietly put them up on his back 40 on his property in a trailer that he had, and he then renovated the trailer to make it nicer. And for 2 years they lived there rent free, and he never wanted anything in return. It wasn't like he wasn't willing to accept. He was just like, you don't owe me nothing for this. You just get back on your feet. And he'd even watch the kids from time to time and stuff. And he didn't tell anyone about it. And he didn't really know these people because I thought, well, maybe like, how like sometimes white families and Black families have like a familial history together. So that kind of that tribal thing, Camille, that you were talking about, turns out, no, he didn't really know them before, but he was like, they didn't have nothing but to sleep in their car, and winter was coming, and you can't have that. And that was it. And he didn't think anything of it. And I'm like, damn it. I mean, even our bigots are some of the nicest bigots you'll find. And how messed up is that?
I mean, there is someone we know of.
I kind of had an experience like that recently where it's like, it's weird how my instinct to nurture works because like I am not a maternal person. Like I never have been, but I am with my child.
Sure.
Like I have this very, fix the problem mentality with my kid. And like I love him, but that's because he's like mine, Mm-hmm. But recently I heard this high pitched like crying. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And there's a cat out on my front porch just like whining, starving. My husband's like, don't feed it. And I said, get out of my way. I'm not going to let a cat starve. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to have it out there starving like that. So I take it some food. It eats. I put him a blanket under the thing, but then it was like as soon as he was fed, I was like, okay, get on out of here, right? Like, get on back to your house. You're not coming in my house. I'm allergic to cats. I'm gonna feed you. I'm not gonna let you be hungry, but you're not gonna hang around here either. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of Southern way. It's like,
oh yeah,
I'm not gonna let you go without. But I'm not going to let you be, like, you're not going to hang around. Don't think that this is like a handout. Like, you're not going to mooch off me or anything. But I can't have you being without anything,
My grandmother used to always talk about this. She said that even the most horrible person around here will eventually accidentally do a Jesus. Because it's so ingrained in them that it slips out by accident.
You can't help it. It's like, you can't help it. I can't tell you how many terminal patients died in my house when I was growing up because my mom could not resist a terminally ill person. She had to put them up on hospice in our house, would move them out of their house into our house so that she could give them 24/7 care. And she was not a nurse. She just literally could not, in herself, stomach someone dying alone. So if there was someone who like didn't have anybody, didn't have any family or friends, and they were like ill, they became hers. And it was like she wouldn't put up with crap, obviously. And like people who were well and able, she didn't have that same kind of like nurturing towards. She's like, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get over it. But if someone is already dying, she's like, you're not going to do it by yourself. And that was a very strange, like, way to grow up. But it also became like ingrained in me, where it's like you see someone down on the luck, and you make that assessment whether, you know, they can deal with it on their own, but if they can't, you better not turn a blind eye to it.
Right. You know, and that's what, like, when, like, stories really paint people just in black and white or one way or another, it just always rings false for me, because it doesn't reflect the world I grew up in, the world I live in as I perceive it.
Right.
And that is what I like about Southern stories when they work, is they do finally, it's, you know, again, like the thing everybody wants, it is a representation for me. It is a representation of the world as I experience it. And it's so nice because it happens so rarely.
I mean, I always remember one of my favorite stories growing up was one of my mother's many ex-bosses. She went through a lot of them. Was an ex-politician in Mississippi, and his mother was so racist. It was amazing anyone was capable of that level.
So if you are familiar with V.C. Andrews, the Flowers in the Attic, think of the grandmother. You know, the arsenic donutting grandmother?
Yeah.
And that's what this woman was like, because I knew her as well. I mean, damn, she was just scary and evil and horrible and ugly.
And on the surface, this guy was, you know, pretty racist. Everything else you expect of a good old boy.
That good old boy shit. Oh.
And this person's still running a lot of good old boy stuff, including conventions. But in his spare time, with his own money, and making sure no one ever heard, he spent every year going around getting black people elected to political jobs. Like, wherever there was an election, he put in his own money to go do their campaigns, telling them how to do it, putting them in contact with people.
Driving them around to go do, you know, that door-to-door campaigning that they didn't necessarily know how to do because there's no school for this around here. So he would just take them door to door, show them, introduce them to all the people of influence in their area to go talk to be a face, to be seen, so they could get elected to, including the state legislature. And he did it secretly, and everybody was sworn to secrecy. Our mother was, however, I wasn't. And yeah, I mean, like, this guy who, like, on the surface to this day still reads, ugh, so pissed off. But then he would do this thing because he believed that black people should have representation of their own. And he believed nobody could represent a black person better than another black person. And he also was like, but if we don't have blacks representing themselves, we're going to have another uprising. So we got to deal with it. And then, like, what? What?
Yeah, but local politics are the weirdest things. Like, my brother almost accidentally ended up as a state representative this year because he was at a bar drinking with a guy who was like, you should run for state rep. And he was like, that's really funny. And then a couple of days later, he came back and was like, I got some papers so that you could run as a state rep. And he was like, and then, like, he found out that he came within like 12 votes of winning.
Oh.
Even though he didn't realize that he was running, because apparently the papers he signed while he was at the bar talking with the guy that he thought was a joke wasn't.
Oh, man.
Like, local politics are weird. In like all the strangest ways. Like, my personal favorite is my state representative lives on the other side of that wall. Across the creek on the other side, in the other yard. That's where my state representative lives. And he is a horrible, evil, nasty person that, like, was spit out from the bowels of hell. And he comes over to the house every year when he runs. And I'll never forget it. Last time he was running, he came over to the house, and my pride flag is on this wall, the gay pride flag. My trans pride flag is right here. And he just stood there and was like, would you like to help me stop the LGBT people from corrupting our youth? And I just stood there and I was like, no, because I need all the children I can get, Harvey. And he laughed because he thought it was a joke. He had no idea what was going on.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord.
Oh,
by the way, Charlie, before I forget, we did want to mention that in Mississippi Dam, there is also an Aunt Charlie. Oh, and she is a salty bitch. So, anyhow, she literally stabs a bitch.
She stabs two bitches.
Well, yeah, one was by accident.
Two bitches.
Okay, I've never stabbed two.
She goes to jail for the second one.
Yeah.
And then we get a time skip when she comes back from jail.
Right. And we thought of you every time they talk about Aunt Charlie, and I'm like, So anyway, okay. So I figure maybe now is probably a good time to start wrapping up and talking about, like, anybody have anything they want to talk about as we kind of wrap up and get to the close.
I'm sorry, CB just popped in and went, karma. I can't.
Karma, bitch.
Karma.
Oh, this party. Yes, we all have to get together back when the pandemic finally ends. Okay. Any last ideas or thoughts about the South as a setting, the South is storytelling? Anything, go for it. What you got? What you want? Anything on your chest?
I just have to say, for me, the wonderful thing about like all the area around here is it is a mythical, magical place. Like half the stories you hear are true, half the stories you hear are bold-faced lies, and it's almost impossible to tell them apart because the more unbelievable the story is, the more likely it probably is to be true.
Yes.
Oh, I got some like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Jones County? You mean the Jones County fable? The independent state of Jones County?
Oh, yeah. What is it? Yes.
That there is absolutely no records for?
Like, it's just...
No, the Free State of Jones.
That's right, Free State of Jones. They made a movie about it even.
Right, yeah.
With Matthew McConaughey.
And it's just, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing that I don't think I've ever seen, like, thoroughly captured in a movie, is just how ridiculous life is, because it's just a constant state of cognitive dissonance that everybody lives in.
Well, see, that's the problem.
Accept as normal.
That's the problem with, real life versus a book. Is a book and a story you have to make believable.
Right.
Real life doesn't have to be believable.
In a story.
You can't make any of this stuff believable. You cannot make any of this
stuff.
You
have to tell everybody it's fiction. Because they never believe it if you're like based on a true story. No.
We have a bar full of regulars that are like biker guys and like all like Trump Nation crazy people and like all the like put your like rogues gallery of stereotypes that we have all trained to sing in 5-part harmony anytime anybody says to be fair, because we're really big Letterkenny fans, and they just do it and nobody knows why, and it's just taken as, and nobody questions it. But this is the thing, like people at a table over in the restaurant part of the thing will say to be fair, and you'll just hear the bar break out to be fair. Like they just like break out in song, and like they just kind of look over and look back, because why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they? Yes. That's what I love about the South.
A part of life.
It's bigger than real life. It's fiction.
For real.
Like,
I love it. I love it so freaking much.
Because I've lived all over the country. Like, I've never really been outside the country, but I've lived all over the country. And I have to say, every region has its own, like, particularness. And I would love to do, like, one of these with Catherine Fay about Maryland, because Maryland is a region of the world.
We were talking about Baltimore yesterday. We talked about Baltimore for about 2 hours. Yeah.
And I had to remind Glory that the Mason-Dixon line is between Maryland and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Not Maryland and Virginia.
They will point that out to you on a regular basis. It's
Baltimore is definitely in the South. Like, there is definitely a lot of oppressed people. There's a lot of people of color.
But Maryland is a place and a half.
I mean, that is one thing we do love about John Waters movies is John Waters tries to make sure it's a real portrayal of Baltimore.
And that's the horrific thing about watching his movies, is having lived there as long as I did. Those are practically documentaries.
Yes.
But they're just practically documentaries.
I love it.
Yeah.
Camille, do you have anything you'd like to get off your chest before we finish for
Nothing
the day?
I can say on here.
You good? You feeling like you've been heard? Have you been heard, honey?
I've been heard.
And let's see. Oh, in the link is Camille's Amazon author page as well, so y'all be sure to check her out.
All right. I do have one thing though.
Okay, your turn. Tom.
I always love to talk about because, not to toot my own horn, but I have traveled around the world.
Let's go. And
that is the part where Mississippi has somehow the title of being one of the most racist places on earth. Is one of the least, qualified lies I know of, because everywhere on earth is racist. There are bigots everywhere. It took Mississippi, and a black man in Mississippi no less, to figure out how to get around the U.S. racism everywhere with the blood bank system. Of, how to get a
Mississippi invention.
Yeah. To get people okay and accepted with, you don't get to find out that much about the person who donated this blood. You just ask if you need blood, you will get blood.
And I would just like you, on behalf of...
Wasn't he black, or am I thinking?
Yes, he was black.
Okay,
No, they both were. The one who did the heart transplant and the blood bank were both black.
Both men of color. Yes, thank you.
And Tom, next time somebody tries to say, or you hear somebody saying that Mississippi is the most racist place on earth, explain to them, no, that's Donovan, Missouri. It's just over there in Carter County.
We're not about to shade another town.
Oh, no, honestly, it's still practically a sundown town, okay?
You think about the last 4 years. The most tense 4 years we probably ever have had, the most division that we ever have had. Yeah. And I mean, Mississippi as a place has been really innocuous when it comes to, like, of course we have a lot of heated, like, I don't even know people in the Mississippi area that will get into heated conversations on Facebook. Like, they just won't talk about it. They just won't talk about it. They're like, I feel how I feel. You feel how you feel. I'm not really interested in getting to an altercation about it. It is what it is, right? It's like, this is my business. That's your business. Let's just talk about something else. And so when you think of, like, other places where, like, we've seen even lynchings in the past year, and, like, people being hung outside of city halls. I haven't heard of that happening in Mississippi.
At least not for a couple decades.
Huh?
At least not for a couple decades.
Not for a couple decades, that's what I was saying, but it's still going on other places. And I'm like, the thing about the South right now is, in the 1950s, it was a dangerous place to be. Right now, it is like retirement capital of the world. It's like no one gives a shit about getting into a fight with you. It's like, this is a place where to just keep your opinions to yourself, and you're going to live in relative peace. People being hospitable to your face. They might talk shit behind your back, but what they think about you is none of your business. Don't worry about them. It doesn't even matter. So, like, Mississippi is leading in action, in apathy, and just kind of like
leading in apathy.
The Southern ennui is real. That's what you're saying.
We talk a lot of talk, but rarely ever do those shotguns get pulled out.
That's true.
That's
true. I mean, the thing I say is, like,
76. It's like, Lord of mercy.
Of course, also now everyone in Mississippi, like, if you pull out that shotgun, someone's gonna go, "No, that's my cousin. I'm related to them." Like, everyone now is related. Speaking of, those grandmas with their babies of who knows,
a variety of racial backgrounds. Yes.
See, this is why I say that we're technically not Southern, but we're just hill folk that wash down.
I think Missouri as Southern adjacent.
Yeah, we're Southern adjacent because
and I think that's fair. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being Southern adjacent.
Brother decided to come shoot his door up the other day just because they broke up 3 years ago.
Look, you can still get grits in Missouri.
I'm sorry.
mean, I feel like that's an advertisement for, antipsychotics and
Yes.
antidepressants.
This entire
I'm like, hey, has your brother shot up your ex's door for no freaking reason?
Like, no, they keep setting things on fire. They're running around shooting at people with bottle rockets and the mortars. It's bad here, people. It's bad.
See, the most violence that you're going to see in Mississippi is under Governor Tate Reeves' Facebook post.
Yeah,
that's a dangerous place.
That guy's a
for the psyche, like it's just kind of sad to even read. But people talk a lot of talk on Facebook, but you get them out in regular day-to-day life, and they're like,
it's manners.
I'm just saying, people need to update their mental maps and all those really bad stereotypes about South. Just move them up just a little bit. Move them up the river. They're here now. They're here. We got all like I know when they're having arguments over in the apartments over there because you can hear the AR start shooting back and forth, and then the police showing up and more shooting.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm pretty sure I got a militia forming across the highway over here. I mean, I hear automatic weapons over there all the time. I'm like, no.
No. I know where you are. No, they're practicing on the range behind the church there.
There's a shooting range back there.
Is there?
Yes.
Because that makes me feel a lot better. Because
not the one against the highway, but remember, there's a church further back on that side road across the.
I thought there was.
That's a shooting range, sweetie. Like, we've literally driven behind and seen the shooting range.
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, they are on their. They're on their ARs, but they are right behind the church there.
See, the husband tried that with me, and then I'm like, but then explain the police cars and the ambulances.
So many times. I'm like, there are people planning a civil war across the street.
Versus Charlie brings up a good point. There's no ambulances coming.
Right.
There's your side. There's the difference.
Oh, yeah. All your best stereotypes, move them up the river. We'll just move them up the river.
Mm-hmm.
They come up here. Move them up the river.
All right.
I
think
don't even remember what. Anyway. Oh, before I forget, if you have made it all the way here, again, I applaud you for sticking with us. And just to let y'all know, we are going to start for the entire month of December. We're going to start a giveaway game of bingo. And we are going to be giving away and mailing to people who win crochet or their choice of 15 minutes of tech help with Tom. Their choice. And you can even bank it. And I will even mail your crochet to someone else if you're like, please just go ahead and get my Christmas gifts done. So keep it. Did I freeze? Okay. Keep in mind next week, and there will be a link when I post the next the list for the next episode. I post that YouTube thing. I don't have words anymore. I will post a link for the bingo, and it's your unique generated bingo card. You can actually mark on it and stuff. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to do that every single episode in December as our sort of like Christmas thing. And also, sure, don't you want crochet or something? I need to get this stuff out of my house. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, we're talking about a Southern care package for the Christmas one.
Yeah. Oh, we did talk about doing for Christmas, doing a Southern care package with goo clusters and moon pies, banana moon pies, and chocolate moon pies, and
the Lance crackers.
Lance crackers with peanut butter or cheese or both, wherever you want, like whole packs of them. Because I don't know if everyone can get Lance crackers where you are. And yes, we have discussed it, and we will be mailing to the United Kingdom and Ireland. Should anybody win outside the U.S., we've looked on how to ship through DHL. And so we will be also doing one Southern care package available as well. If anybody's and 0 bars, right? We were going to also source some 0 bars because they are from Mississippi originally. And anything else we can find that's really Mississippi delicious. So anyhow, something to look forward to for next week and on. And then next week, does anybody remember what the episode's supposed to be? Because God only knows. Let's see, I posted it to Instagram. What does that picture say? Oh, right. We're doing queer amazing characters in old Hollywood. That's Tom's wording, queer amazing. I like it. I hope everyone else does too or not. I mean, it would be lovely if Charlie showed up, but I'm not trying to pressure any of my guests. But essentially about queer coding and queer baiting. So yeah, we're gonna get to watch a lot of old movies and some not so old movies. But yes, Spartacus will be mentioned.
And the Thin Man movies.
And
the Thin Man movies have
some
to be
hot. I can't remember all of them right now off the top of my head. And honestly, that stand-up pad has gone missing for the last 2 days. I don't want to talk about that right now. I have to feed the brownie again is all I can say. So anyhow, so we got a lot coming up. The links for everybody is down below, including Charlie's link, just in case that you have wandered in and have no idea who any of us are. Hello and welcome to AuthorTube. It's a wild ride, y'all. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope you will come again next Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be here. We'd love to see you. Thanks, and bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.